I can't draw, but my girlfriend made this cute drawing and asked me to digitally paint it in. After this video, you'll know how to get the lines digitally, how to color them in, how to do the shading, and also some extra polishing tricks that will really level up the end result. We'll go over each step so that you can understand the process. Fusion can be pretty daunting for beginners, but I'll make sure that you'll know exactly how to color in your drawing at the end of this video. First, we need the line art, and there's two ways to go about it. You can either scan the drawing on a 300 dpi scanner, or you can do what I did and take a picture with your phone and send it to yourself by mail. Okay, so I'm in Davinci Resolve and I'm going to type right in here Fusion, and you have to see Fusion Composition. If you're over here, you're not going to see it, but if you press on Toolbox, you can see Fusion Composition. So click on Fusion Composition, and now we'll head over to Fusion right here. And as you'll see, we get a Media Out node, and this Media Out node is where everything will be displayed. If we open the media pool and take our picture, you can also just drag a picture from a folder, say your pictures folder or your downloads folder after you downloaded it from your email, and you can plug it in right here. This is the drawing my girlfriend made. And as you can see, it's showing up on the second monitor. This happens because we press 2. And 2 will select the monitor that we're watching on which node. So if I press 1, we can view it on this side as well. And now you can do a whole bunch of other things with it if you'd like. But we're not going to do that right now. We're just going to view it on this monitor. The first thing I notice is that this picture is in a different dimension than I want it to be. It's 1500 by 2000. So a simple thing we can do is press Shift Space to open up our tool menu. And then we can type BG for background and add. And here we've got a background, and we are going to change the dimensions of this background. But first, we have to add this one to this one by dragging this line to the square. We get a merge node, and the merge node we're going to connect to the media out. And what I like to do is I put these right underneath the media out. So the background node. We get options right over here when we click on it, but we want to change the dimensions. So what we're going to do, we're going to click on image, and we're going to uncheck auto resolution. And here we can change the resolution. Now I want to make it 1920 by 1920. And as you can see, the entire image has changed and it's now a square. We'll copy this background node and we'll paste it right here. We're going to drag this background node over the media in. And this is basically just using layers. So this is the background now, and this is over our background. Now what we want to do is we want to add a paint node by pressing Shift A, typing in paint and adding it. Now we're going to change this background to white. And as you can see, everything is white. Now in the merge node, we want to get rid of the white. Let me show you what I mean. If we make the paint color black, let's make it black. And let's paint something black right here. When we go over into the merge node, and we'll set this to multiply, only the black will remain. And this is exactly what we want, because we're going to trace over all of these lines and we need to see what we are doing, because we cannot do it just simply on a white canvas. So in the merge node, set it to multiply. And now we've got this. And what I want to do now is go into the paint node and show you some of these settings. Usually with the paint node you can just paint, but we're not going to do that right now. We're actually going to make use of the polyline function. What we can do is basically mask out this entire object like this, and we have our lines. But as you can see, it's pretty soft and it's way too big. So how do we fix that? We go over into the brush controls, and there you have size, and we can change the size of our line. And I'm going to make it roughly around the same size as the drawn lines. And the softness, I like to get a very low softness, just as the drawing itself has a low softness, if you get what I mean. What we can do now is we can mask out this entire image, and if you press and hold, you can use these little bars to get a curve in there. So like this, and we're going to trace over the entire image. Make sure you do this well, because the better you do it, the better the quality of the drawing will be. So this is a part of the drawing. As you can see, we've got our black lines right now surrounding everything. And in the paint node, we can press away from this line and then re-click the polyline node and draw in the rest of this. So I recommend starting with the outside and then doing every line on the inside. But wait, now you'll ask me, okay, but what if I want to go back to this line because I made a grave mistake right over here and it really looks bad? Now, what you can do, you can go over into the paint node, go to the modifiers and double click on this line, and now you can re-edit whatever you like. So as you can see, I can now move around everything once again. So don't worry, your lines are not gone and you can still reselect them, going over into the modifiers right here and selecting your polyline stroke. If you want to remove your stroke, such as this one right here, you can simply uncheck it. So that's all you need to know about creating the line art. As you can see, we can simply make a new line. We first have to click away. Then we're going to click on polyline stroke once again. And we can make the rest of our lines. So once we've done that, I'll see you in a bit and I'll explain the rest of the steps. Now that we've got our line art, the drawing has basically been brought into Davinci Resolve digitally. So now all we have to do is mask out certain sections and draw within them the flat colors that we want the drawing to have. As you may notice, I'm doing a different drawing right now, but that is no problem because the steps are going to be exactly the same. We can follow along just fine. And I still have to color this myself, so we can just go through it step by step. The first thing I want to do is swap out the original image. So if you have followed along the tutorial, your image probably still looks like this. And we are going to remove the original drawing and we're going to bring a white background in here. And now we've got this. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to copy all of this. And by the way, I've got a transform node right in here because it was a bit small. But you want to take all of this, copy it, paste it right here. And now we're going to hold Shift while clicking on the merge node and placing it right before our media out. The line should light up and now it's right over there. Why would we do that? This is actually to ensure that the black lines are always on top. Okay, so we do not want the colors that we're going to add to go over the lines. It will always be under the lines. Let's add a background node. Then we're going to add it to this merge node. And now it's over the merge node. And as you can see, it's not the right size. It's not 1920 by 1920. So what I actually like to do is we're going to take the original background and plug it right over here. We have white, but the blacks are still going over this line. And we can show that by doing this. And now we need to pick a color. I'm going for something like this. And we can always change it in the future, so it's not that big of a problem. And what we're going to do is select the polygon tool. And now we're going to mask out the part where we want this line to be. Now we have to go over the black lines and make sure not to go outside of it. And this can be pretty rough because the black line will always be on top as long as you stay within the lines. Alright, and as you can see, this now has one flat color. And we're going to do that for every single part. So basically what you do is you copy the background node, put it over the merge node, and now we've got another color. Let's make it yellow. And then we're going to do the exact same trick, but this time for the hair. And slowly but surely we're adding all the colors in there, and we can make it whatever color we like by going into the background node and just changing the colors. Let's make it a bluish tone. One more thing, you can give these polygon line names by pressing F2 and renaming it to whatever it is. This way it will be easier to find back later on, where we're going to reuse this mask for different purposes. Alright, so I'm going to finish this up and I'll see you in a bit. So this is what I've ended up with by filling in the flat colors within the lines of our drawing. Now what I want to do is I want to give some shading to this, because the flat colors are what they are. Flat colors. So what we want to do is we actually want to bring in some shadow right over here and give it just a little bit of that 3D effect. Now in order to show you guys how that will look, I will make use of one of my favorite programs, which is Blender. Alright, so this is a mushroom. We can see that wherever the light is coming from, we have a certain type of shadow. Now, this shadow is very extreme because this implies that the entire world is dark. But we can also place a light right over here. It's just a little bit softer. But now we can really see the way in which this shadow is supposed to go on a 3D object. So this is just to give you guys an impression of what this kind of shadow could look like and where the shadows should be going, where the lights should be going. Let's keep that in mind when making this drawing. We have got our polygons. We've gone through a lot of effort to make these, to get the right masks out of this. I'm just going to start with this little guy right here. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to bring it right over here. And I'm placing it at the bottom and I'm going to add a background, place the background right over here. And now when I place this one into the mask of the merge node, it will only occur within this place. And by the way, I want to actually take one of these backgrounds because they have the right dimensions. So we're going to do it like this, change the color to black. And now what we can do is we can press Shift Space, Mask, Paint. So here's a new tool that I'm going to teach you. And we can use this tool in order to draw in our shadows. So as you can see, it draws in the shadows. Now, this is way too rough because the alpha is standing at full power. And we don't want that. We're going to decrease the alpha just a bit. And let's see what this looks like. Ah, yeah. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a soft pass first to where I want the shadow to be going entirely. So let's say it should be going to about half of his body, like this. And then we'll do a hard pass nearer to the edge. So that's the way I do it, at least. And now I find it to be a little bit too strong, so I'm going to set the alpha to 0. And when we draw over it right now, it will actually remove the shadow. Here we have to apply some logic in order to make this work. By the way, if this doesn't suit you and you want it to be just a little bit lighter, you can also go into the background node and adjust the slider. I think I've went a bit too rough with this one. Now it's pretty dark, so I'm going to do it like something like this. Now, one thing to take into account are natural positions on which shadows occur. So right underneath the hair, there might be a shadow layer. So let's make a shadow layer over there, because the hair gives a shadow on the face itself. Doesn't have to be extreme, can go pretty light with this. The fact that it's there will make it better. All right, so, and we can also show what it does with and without by selecting these nodes and pressing Ctrl P. All right. As you can see, the image already has a lot more depth. And I'm going for this right now. We can always make adjustments. We can always just make a new mask paint node and do it again. So there's no problem over here. Because one thing I'm noticing, this arm is probably sticking out. And because it's sticking out, it doesn't have as much shadow as the rest. It would be better to leave the arms just a bit more like this. And now just draw with a little bit of intuition. What I like to do is I'm going to make it very big, set it to 0, and then almost from the side, I'm going to click here and give that soft edge ever so slightly. It already looks a lot softer, like a soft light instead of a hard light, like the shadow of the sun. But you can go for a hard light if you'd like. Anyway, there should probably be a little bit more shadow near the feet. So I'm going to place my shadow right over here. And yes, I'm noticing we're drawing on the feet. We're going to remove that, casting some shadow from that feet. Now we're going to set it to 0 and be a bit more meticulous with our way of drawing right now. Remove the shadow from the foot. Maybe just leave a slight bit around the toes. There you go. And also over here. That's looking pretty good. I think it's still a little bit rough around the edge right here. So I'm going to do the same soft method that I talked about earlier. Just pressing. And now what we can do is we can increase the softness in order to make this line just a little bit less sharp. We're going to do the exact same technique. We're going in from the side because I still think the line is a bit too sharp. All right, this is actually looking pretty good. So let's remove it. We can also press on background and click on this button right here. Ah, yeah. And that's basically the way that you add shadows, and we're going to do this for all of these. So I'm simply going to Ctrl C, Ctrl V on the background node, place it right over here, connect it to the merge node. Now we're going to take, oh, I see that we've still got our alpha like this. No need to do that, we can just make it black. And now I'm going for the hat he's wearing. I guess it's a hat, I don't know what you call it, and enter it into the mask. By the way, the blue triangle is the mask option pretty much everywhere in Davinci, so anything that's blue, it probably has to do with an alpha node. Shift space, mask paint. We are working on a painting, and so I'm doing everything on the first frame, because if you move to another frame, you can see that anything that's drawn in with the mask paint node, for example, I've got 3 now. This one is for the eyes. So I drew these white shiny dots in his eyes using a mask paint node with the exact same technique as this one. You'll be able to figure it out if you want to do that as well. If you want a longer stroke duration, so you want the duration of the stroke to occur for a longer time, you can just enter a very high number over here, or the exact amount that is in your timeline. But I'm not going to do that. We are just working on a single frame because it's just a single image. I'm doing everything on the first frame. So let's continue. I'm going to decrease the alpha. First we're going to do a soft pass, and we have chosen the shadow to come from the right side. So I'm just going to be consistent with it. So this is the soft pass, and now we're going to do the hard pass. Something like this. Make it a little bit darker. I'm already seeing that it's way too dark. I'm going to make the backside just a bit darker, because his face is probably obstructing some of the light. Anyway, so that is our hard shadow pass. Now we're going over into the background node, adjust the alpha to something that we like, because maybe the shadow is a bit too much, maybe it's not good enough. I'm trying to keep it consistent with the rest of the image we have, so that there's not a very hard shadow on this side, but there's no hard shadows over here. So I'm just trying to keep it a little bit consistent with the rest of the drawing. All right, so that's the way we do it. Turn it off. Let's turn it on. It's already way more 3D. Now I'm going to do all the other parts. You can do that as well, and I'll see you in the next bit where we're going to draw some highlights. So now we're going to draw the highlights, and I'm going to start with the body of the little guy. So let's copy the polygon node and the background node that are his body. And I'm going to copy it, control paste it right here. Now there's one problem: we cannot paint within this one as long as the polygon line is connected. And this is actually the entire reason why we are plugging it into the merge node. And this is quite unintuitive, but it does work. So first I'm going to remove the polygon lines here, and I'm going to add it over here. As you can see, everything is being added on top of it once again, but as you might know, we are going to paint it ourselves with the mask paint node. So first what I want to do is I want to take this one and I want to make it brighter. And we're going to change this to a lighter color. So I'm going to drag this plus and drag it down just a little bit to make sure that it's still within the same color range, but it's just lighter. And now we're going to add the mask paint node. And as you can see, we can now draw highlights. So these are drawn in just a little different color than the original color itself. Does it need anywhere else? I don't think so. So now we're just going to remove parts of it. And this is pretty much just repeating the process. It is drawing, but this is just a method to how to get the drawing to eventually work. And if you're finding that you are going over the line and actually removing some of your highlights, you can also just go into the brush controls, decrease the softness to 0. And now when you do this, it's actually very hard. But that means that once you go over this line, it will remove anything outside of it, but anything inside of it as well as you hit it. So that's just a little trick you can use. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to set it to 1. And as you can see, the line is pretty hard, and I'm going to remove that once again. I'm taking the alpha, going over here, just the same technique, slightly removing the highlight, making it just a bit softer. If we remove the highlight, let's do that. This is what it does. Just give that extra touch as if there's actual lighting in the scene. And by the way, if you're interested what it looks like when we remove the shadows, it looks like this. And that's basically how you draw highlights. So we are going to do that for each and every layer once again. I'm going to take the hair layer now, which is over here, copy it, paste it over here, remove the polygon line, set it underneath, background in the merge node, hair in the mask input, and now we can make the color just a little bit lighter. Just going to do this. And mask paint node is going to draw it on each side of the hair. Now we're going to make it softer, of course. You know the process by now. So let's see what that looks like. Oh yeah, it adds quite a lot. And in the next part, we're just going to do some polishing work. I reckon that you'll be able to finish the rest of the highlights by yourself, knowing the process. And I'll see you in the next bit. This is the final part of the video where we are going to do some polishing work. Sometimes you need this, sometimes you can just leave it like this. Personally, I'm quite happy with what I've got right now, but I'm still going to show some techniques so that you can increase the level of your drawing. First of all, let's turn off the highlights and shadows. So these were the flat colors without any highlights and shadows. Let me zoom in just a little bit. And this is with the shadows and highlights. And as you can see, it adds a lot. It really gives a whole range of depth to the entire drawing. I'm pretty happy with the results for now. What I'm going to do is we're going to add some glow on the cheeks because we've got these little stripes over here and I want these stripes to be a little bit more reddish. Of course, we can just use the other technique, but I'd like to show you some techniques that are more broadly applicable in Fusion as a whole. So this is the way that you add glow in Fusion by yourself. You can use this in other drawings, renders, photographs as well. Let's copy the background node once again. Let's bring it into the merge node. And now we want the background to be red. In this case, shift space, soft glow. Just going to leave it at default for now. Press on the background node, shift space, mask, paint. And now we're going to decrease the alpha by a whole lot. And let's see. Oh yeah. So just make it slightly more reddish. And there you go. It's pretty cute. I still don't like the harsh lines, so I'm just going to turn it off. Increase the brush softness and draw past this so it's a little bit more natural. Pretty cute. So this is what it looks like with and without. It's just a little finishing touch. And what we can do as well is we're going to copy this background node, plug it in once again. And now we're going to make it white. And let's see, we're going to add a mask paint node. Maybe you can draw a big line over here, make it seem more natural. So yeah, that's just a highlight, and you can see as we remove it or bring it back, it adds something to the painting. Kind of like it, so I'm going to leave it at that. And we can add another glow with some white. So we're going to copy this exact same setup, or without the mask paint node actually. Just going to enter it into here. Of course it's red, we don't want that. We're going to make it white. Mask, paint. Give just a little bit of glow to this part. Let's see. Ah yeah. And now it's just a little bit more blended within the rest of the painting. So I kind of like it. I'm going to leave it like that. Maybe we can do something extra. Actually, I can show you how to make a particle setup. And we're going to do it really quickly because this is not really the goal of the video. But we can add a P emitter. We can add a P render. Now we basically have a particle system. If we add it into this, there is a particle system ready. Go into P render, set it to 2D. It is already on 2D, so that's good. We're going into P emitter. Then we have the number. Let's increase it to 100. And now to style, we're going to make it a blob. And if you press on 1 on the P render, you can actually see what it's doing. And there's not a lot of it because the circle is very small. But as you increase it, it becomes a lot more. But the size of the blobs are very small. So we're going into the P emitter, and in the style, we're just going to increase the size. It won't let us go past 0.5, but you can actually type in a higher range. So if I put this on 3, as you can see, we get some star-like particles. We can do some size variance, size to velocity or size to Z scale. Doesn't really matter, but things that are closer are bigger than things that are further away, etc. Now let's increase so it fits into the circle. And that's it. Now you've got some sort of snowy effect if you'd like. You can also remove the white background or just change the color of the particle system. And that's just a way to increase just a little bit extra into your final result. So let's say you don't want the particle systems over here. Now what have we learned? We can use a mask paint node to have it tell where to show up. So if I want to have it only on his head and something in the nearby region of his head, we can do that. But if I want to have it over his entire body, we can do that as well. And this is a way to increase the value of your final result. But I'm not going to use a particle system right now, so just going to delete it. It's just a nice technique to know. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and are not very scared by the ginormous amount of nodes that we've been using in order to reach this end result. But basically, you can divide it into subsections where these are just the flat colors, these are the shadows, these are the highlights. And well, in that way you can see that it's really not a very scary process. It's a lot of repeating the same simple node setups over and over again and being diligent with your manners of art. And if you want to know more about how to use Davinci Resolve Fusion, I highly recommend watching this video next.